The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Advice Cloud Get Ready for G Cloud 15. I'm Chris, I'm the founder and CEO of Advice Cloud. I'm delighted to welcome you this morning. This is my ninth webinar around a different version of G Cloud coming around. So I'm feeling particularly old this morning, but you're all very welcome, especially to anyone who's new or maybe coming back to G Cloud for the first time after a while. A bit of housekeeping. This is being recorded, and we will distribute the slides, the recording, and all questions that are asked with answers, ideally by some point tomorrow, depending on the level of questions that we have. So hopefully that will answer that one for everybody. You're all on mute. The only way to ask questions is through your sidebar. Please don't use the chat. Use the question box, as the chat doesn't save when we leave the webinar. We use the question box then to identify any ones that we haven't actually managed to get to answer. So there's Q&A. There'll be some time for Q&A at the end. I've got a bunch of slides here. This is really aimed at for beginners to G Cloud. Always we try to aim these for beginners to G Cloud. We've got a lot of people on the webinar today. For anyone who's returning or needs a refresh, as I say, there'll be a bunch of polls during this. This helps us gauge the temperature of the room and making sure that we're providing the right content to you, and we can then make sure use that for future information to help us guide what we need to do, and if needs be changed on the fly the actual webinar that we're doing. I'm ably assisted by Danny, our marketing lead today. He will be helping out with the polls and also with the Q&A at the end. We're here for an hour today. Normally we try and do these in half an hour, but we are here for an hour today, so a slightly slower pace for me today. We've got a lot to share, and there's usually quite a lot of information requests at the end. All right, so without further ado, let's crack on. So let's talk about what we're covering. So we'll talk about the introductions to us as an organization. We'll go through, for those who don't know us, with all the basics of G Cloud, what we know about G Cloud 15 so far, the timelines. We'll talk about some top tips for success. This is where we share our knowledge. Having used the framework to buy since version 1, 12 years, 12, 13 years ago now. We know a lot about how the top sellers on G Cloud actually use it as part of their sales strategy, and we also know very deeply about how buyers use it, not just on the prescribed buying process, but there's a bunch of different tricks and tips that we're able to share to our clients around how this actually works. Okay, we'll talk a bit about how we can help. We are a consultancy, so whilst this is a free webinar, there are paid for services available should you need. And then we'll go into Q&A. But let's do a quick bit introduction to us, okay? We are public sector procurement experts. I'm an ex-gov buyer. A lot of my team have worked on buying stuff either for government or working with suppliers to help their buyers buy their stuff as well. We particularly focus on framework and bidding specialisms. 50% of the business is getting people onto frameworks. We have a 98.5% success rate on that. In fact, we're that confident about getting people onto frameworks that will guarantee to get you on and get your money back. And also the other half of the business is working around the bid section, helping people with bidding, red team reviews, all sorts. Anyway, I'll talk about that later. We work with buyers and suppliers. Okay, so we do buy side work on behalf of Gov, as well as in the main now working with suppliers. And you can see our success rate across there. Our particular focus is that we love working with SMEs. We do work with some of the biggest names and household names in the business. Some of these people have grown from small companies into quite large businesses now as well, which we're very proud of. But our main focus is trying to work with SMEs because we feel that they have a harder time selling into Gov. Okay, and we'll be going for it'll be our 11th year now. We'll be heading into, so quite proud of that too. All right, so we're going to do a very quick poll to just assess the temperature in the room, if we don't mind. Danny, if you could launch that one now, please, that would be great. So first of all, we're going to talk a bit about G Cloud 14. So can you just let us know, take some on the following, are you actually listed on G Cloud 14? And the answer, yes, we've had some sales, yes, but we've had no or minimal sales. No, we've had no success with G Cloud 13 before it. And no, this is all new to us. And we're getting up to about 75% you voted already, 80% coming up. Any Advice Cloud people on the call, please remember not to vote. Okay, we're about 81% now. I think we can close that now and put the results up, please, Dan, if we could just share that with everybody. Okay, so congratulations to the 50% that are listed on 14 have had sales. That's great. And for the rest of you, hopefully this will be helpful to give you a bit of an indication about how to be successful in G-Cloud as well. All right, but given that says 86% saying is around the yes, we've had something, that's a really, really great a great message to anyone who's not been on the framework or is new to the framework and that. So also helps me aim that we have quite an experienced amount of people on here so far and looking for updates around what the framework's going to look like. Okay, so yeah, if we can close that down and we'll crack on. Right. Very like I can put back and I've got a picture of myself back up there. I don't really like that. Not keen. So the basics of G-Cloud, what do you need to know about the framework? Okay, so given that I'll run through this quite quickly, given that most of you, 86% of you have been on the framework, but we do try to make sure that this is available for anyone who's new. So you'll notice that G-Cloud has a file name, which is an RM number of 1557. All Crown Commercial Services frameworks have these. And to demystify that, it actually stands for route to market. Okay, if anyone ever wanted to know that. And it shows you how old G-Cloud is because, they're on route to market 1557, and the current, I think, tech services is something like 69, something or the other. A lot of the frameworks now are up to that sort of level. So there's been a large number of frameworks since then, all right? And it's a framework for supplying cloud-based solutions to the UK public sector. Your solutions are then listed on the digital marketplace catalog where buyers can go and search and find and stuff without actually having to do any engagement or anything else like that. They can just have a look to see what's out there if they want to. And it really is an ideal route for organisations who wish to sell cloud services into UK government. And one of the things I like about it the most, and I've always found it on the best, is compared to any other Crown Commercial or any other framework out there, it's extremely open and transparent. So I can see my competitors' listings, my competitors can see mine. The management information is shared, so you can see who's sold what and to whom over the period of time. So there's absolutely no hidden agendas around that. The buying process is very open, and it's still quite unique in the way it goes about things. I've never seen anything like it since. And I say it's been running for over 12 years now, so it's very well established. And it's gone from first iteration had 200 people on it to over 5,000 suppliers on it now with 40,000 services. So it is pretty well established, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we come along. So what's the structure? Well, for G-Cloud 14, there were 4 lots. Prior to that, from up until 12, there were 3. So the main 3 that are on the list on the catalogue that you'll see are for cloud hosting, which is your traditional compute and storage and some associated stuff around the network layer. Then you have cloud software. Up to the platform layer, and then you have your cloud software, which is your classic, it could be a CRM, it could be a data piece of software, it could be a HR software, some financials, whatever. Yeah. And then you have lot 3 cloud support, which is where the vast majority of a lot of the work goes through, because there's a lot of skills required out there to do this migration stuff. And this is for suppliers that can help people choose their cloud, sort of choose them through the cloud's right for them, help them migrate to that cloud, help them secure it, manage it, operate it, retire it, and move on to something else. All right. And there's a whole range of things that can be done in there. And I've seen some quite weird stuff, which again, I'll talk about over the years. And it's always the weird stuff that gets talked about rather than the standard things that you can buy. And for Lot 4, which is the end-to-end cloud services, this was introduced at G-Cloud 13. This is for larger scale projects that do all of the cloud support services, from setup, migration, security, and ongoing support. The first 3 lots, by the way, you can buy on what's called a direct award basis, okay, or it's called a catalogue award really now. But for Lot 4, it was competitive only, and hasn't been that successful. I think it's done about £10 million so far. But it was there for a reason, and we'll talk about it as well. So why do you want to get listed on G-Cloud? What's it for? Well, quite often we'll find that people are actually told to get on there by one of their buyers or one of their prospects. And one of historically, it has been open to all cloud suppliers of all sizes, including brand new startups. Okay, I remember that back in the very early days of digital marketplace. So to be about G-Cloud 6 or 7, you could register a company the day before the framework open, and you'd be able to get, as long as you can get something up and listed, you'd be able to get on there. Okay, that's slightly changed now because there's a lot of testing around financial viability. It still is a reasonably simple, streamlined application process. There's a lot to do. For newcomers, it can take quite a lot of time, certainly if you're doing a SaaS thing, because there's like 200 questions to answer on the front end. Plus, you've got to create your documents and things like that as well. It allows for what's called direct award of contracts, which also should be known as award without competition. Okay. Now, the way that the G-Cloud framework is structured on the catalog is that once you've listed your thing on the catalog, that's the tender, that's the thing you've put up. So any buyer that searches on it, the search that they're running is actually what their mini tender that they're doing. So they don't have to contact anyone. All right, so it is really, really great for small, innovative suppliers to a very low bar of entry rather than having to get on one of the major frameworks, possibly partnering, going through third parties, which we all know a lot of difficulties around that, certainly around payment and contract ownership. All right, it's supposed to be for off-the-shelf solutions only. Now, officially, it's not supposed to be for bespoke development. Digital Outcomes and Specialist Framework, which is open now, it is supposedly the place for that. In fact, that's why it was created, to take a lot of the software development off of there. But you will still find, cloudy software development on there. All right, but you're not really supposed to be on there for that. Okay, and it's not suitable for things like recruitment services. You'll find that people like, I think, ALA International and a few others did quite well out of it. They've stopped selling through that now. IT hardware, gas fitters, electricians, caterers. I mean, I've seen electricians as a service on there, and catering as a service. Some people have tried to do anything, and it can be a little bit problematic when you're seeing that stuff up, and it will just get taken down. So just don't waste people's time if it's not anything cloudy. All right, and as I say, the trick really is in the name. It does need to have cloud with a chance of cloud on there. So how contracts are orders? All right, so this is quite interesting, certainly from a newcomer's perspective. Sorry if we're talking to the old cats here. So where multiple suppliers meet the buyer's need, a contract awarded in two ways, really. So you can either go to the lowest price. Yeah. So if you think I want a CRM and I want these features and benefits, and I've checked across 3 or 4 CRM suppliers, and I think actually all of these can do this, and they're all on there, and that's how I can just choose whoever the lowest one is. Or I can use the most economically advantageous tender, which is more commonly used if you're running an evaluation. Typically evaluation criteria will often include like whole life cost, technical merit and functional fit, what sort of after-sales service you're offering, and some non-functional characteristics as well. Okay. Now, if only one compliant supplier meets my requirements, then a buyer can do what's called directly award the contract. So if I type in 3 words for something that I don't know, AWS cloud migration, for example, and using the filters down the side, anything else like that, and I won't, but I come up with only one supplier for that, then I can actually award my AWS cloud migration, my cloud migration to AWS to that one supplier. All right. Trust me, there is a way to make it work, but it doesn't work just by what I've just told you. Right. Onwards. So is it successful? Well, I think the numbers speak for themselves, don't they? Really? I mean, 20.5 billion through G-Cloud over the past 13 years now. 37% of that is with SMEs. Given that the government's overall target for SMEs spend is 30%. Yeah, and that's an aspiration, not a target. Now, we're due to hear at the end of this month, on the 31st of May, I think, or 1st of June, as part of the new legislation, government is due to publish what they're going to do to help SMEs, each department, sorry. But I think the total amount, including going via a supply chain, of the estimated sales figures to SMEs is something around 20%. All right. And this is 37% direct to the supply chain. So it's absolutely busting every single government target, and has done consistently over the years. Even though the large companies have woken up, found out how to use it, they're clearly doing bigger deals. But if you look at the sales figures in more depth, by the number of invoices, it's SMEs that are doing the more business. They're just doing smaller contracts, which is pretty much understandable. All right, and there's an unclassified 3% there, which is no one's quite worked out how to classify them yet. And this is up to the end of March 2025. So there's definitely will be more reported. Clearly, with March Madness happened, that expect that figure to go significantly up. And you can see here, central government is the biggest buyer of this stuff, over £15 billion used so far. The biggest spenders are Home Office, DWP, HMRC, Marge, Cab Office. If you look at these figures are taken from our website, by the way. We take the transparency data that's issued on a monthly basis by Crown Commercial. They send it to us kindly. We've had this visualization up for 8 years. It's on our website, so you can find out lots of detail about who's buying what from whom. All right. So let's get on to the main thing we want to talk about here, which is G-Cloud 15. What do we know so far? Now, this is based on the market engagement that Crown Commercial had. We've got no inside information on this, okay? And there's a bit of knowledge of using the stuff that we've kind of gone, well, if that's going to happen, then this should happen. But we want to really, really caveat this, that, this is just based on what we've heard so far and what Crown Commercial presented. Now, they've been probably through their approvals process now, because they put a market engagement in at Tech UK at the beginning of June. Which we'll tell you about that in later on. So pretty much guaranteed that the next one we hear, they may have changed things around a bit since then, but this is just based on what's known for. So big, heavy caveat on that, all right? So if it's not quite what they say, don't go to Crown Commercial and IceCloud told us this, because, it's just based on what's current. All right. There are big changes expected, though, and it's a complete wholesale change. The reason for that is because of the new Procurement Act. All right. They are still in the supplier engagement phase, as I said, so nothing is confirmed yet. But there's going to be changes to how this framework's structured. I think there's going to be changes to the categorization that you get when you're listing your SaaS or your cloud, your lot one, or even not so much lot three. I don't think there's going to be much change there. There's going to be an element of competition introduced. It's going to be so they're going to have to be price tested and quality tested. There's all these things are proposed. So we don't know the mechanics of it yet, and we won't know until the 17th of June. So if you go onto Tech UK's website, look on their sidebar, they have when their market engagement, the events are, and you should see the Crown Commercial meeting there on the 17th of June. Okay. We do know, according to the pipeline, it's due for open application at the end of July, currently stated for the 23rd of July. And it has to go live by March 2026. G-Cloud 14 was listed without any possible extensions, and it will expire in March 2026. So they have to get it live there. There's a big gap there between applications should probably close around the beginning of September if they stick to timeline. Yes, that means summer holidays are going to be a bit tricky. So those of you who have children, but that's unfortunately the world we live in. We're all clearly a bit frameworked out at the moment with Tech Services 4 closing on Thursday, DOS Open, Transport Tech, and various others that are bidding work that's ongoing at the moment. So start getting prepared here and prepared for those gaps in your summer plans. All right. So there's all I can say is a lot of the times we've found that people have failed on this framework is because they've left it too late. They suddenly think, right, well, we can wait, and then realise the scale of stuff they've got to do, they fail, or they put a really poor listing up and it doesn't work for them. So we will do our best to keep you updated, so you're not there scrambling last minute, but keep in mind this stuff now. All right, there is a proposed new lot structure. So as I said, this is probably the biggest changes they've made since lot 4 was introduced. So they're going to split lot 1, the compute and storage lot, the IaaS and PaaS stuff, into 2. So lot 1A is going to be for hyperscalers and possibly larger resellers of that sort of cloud stuff only. And then lot 1B is supposed to be for secure cloud. Yeah. So for secret and above type suppliers. Okay. Lot 2, they're going to split into the types of software. So you'll have infrastructure, IT service management type software. So what people know is like cloud ops. And apparently, and then lot 2 will be other SaaS, which is like your end user type thing, which applications that end users would use. Yeah. Now, apparently, and I'm not sure this is still going to be going ahead, it will be for people that are the OEMs, yeah, or the ISVs, and then the people who make this stuff only, and not for resellers. All right. Quite how that's going to handle for people like Microsoft with their and Google and people like that, and Salesforce, things like that, I have no idea. but that may then be driving people more towards the technology products and service, TPAS, technology products and services framework for that kind of thing. All right. Lot 3 is going to range the same, except for they're going to allow the inclusion of managed service providers in there now as well. All right. There is no more Lot 4 under the new regulations. You don't need to have that because you can set how you award and put further competition out into this, whereas before you couldn't do that. Okay, so the ability to have the further competition or direct award is going to be within lots 1 to 3 now. All right, so lot 4, and also cloud compute, a framework that has been around, was supposed to be for hyperscalers, hasn't really worked, especially as Microsoft decided to throttle their ability of their resellers not to use it. So I'm not anti-Microsoft, by the way. That's just the way that they acted. But there's cloud compute apparently is not going to be going ahead either. All right, so there won't be a lot of stress about getting onto lot 4 or cloud compute. So it's all going to be brought back into G Cloud 15. It's expected to expand as an open framework, all right, which under new regulations means it's likely to have a 5 or 6 year term with 2 to 3 application windows reopening every 18 months to 2 years. Currently, it's it was an 18-month refresh window, maybe 2 years for some of the time, but they have clearly brought it forward a little bit here. Now, this is something that FVRA requirements will apply, okay? So, and apparently lot 1A and B are going to be gold, with silver going to be applied to lots 2A, 2B, and lot 3. So if you are a brand new organization, there may be some struggles around this. You might have to do some work with your bank or funders or whoever it is to actually prove that you can sustainably deliver cloud services contracts through here, okay? It will align with the procurement data and all of the new PPNs which have come out. There's been a whole load of them. I think prompt payment is one of the biggest ones. There's the things around SMEs, there's the treating your staff correctly. All that stuff there is going to be involved in it. Carbon reduction plans definitely for certain size organizations as well as for lot 1. The suppliers should be uncapped lots for suppliers, but expect them. I'm not sure what that means actually. All the lots are going to be uncapped, okay, but just expect them to be a little bit difficult to get on. So things like 1A and 1B, they're going to be a little bit more complex, but there is going to be some form of competition introduced here to enable people to get on. Whereas before, you just had to list something and didn't worry about that, okay? Which is something about why the scores. There will be quality thresholds, but again, this detail we're going to have to wait until June for. Now, a lot of people were taken quite surprised last time in G Cloud 14 by the requirement to have a either be domiciled in the UK, have a registered company's house number, or to have a UK VAT number. All right. So G Cloud, we had this clarified. G Cloud is open to international suppliers, but there are definitely some important things to know. You must be able to demonstrate the ability to serve UK public sector clients. Okay. Your services must be hosted in line with UK government security and compliance standards. Contracting must be in GBP, as in pounds, and under UK law, depending which country is buying. So, we have England and Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. They all have different procurement regulations based on the new Procurement Act. There's sort of different derogations, different ways of doing things in Scotland and Northern Ireland compared to England and Wales. All right. Now, will buyer favour UK-based support? We found that to be so, but if you're upfront about how things are done, then how you support organisations, then you should be okay to do that. There is no requirement, depending on how to be VAT registered, providing there is some form of trade agreement or whatever it is between our organisation, between our countries. That's more. I might have to check that one up actually, and I'll come back to you on that one in the questions. All right. So that's that for the moment and what we know. Let's do a quick poll again, Danny, please. See where we're at. So, will you be applying for G Cloud 15? Please do select one of the following. Yes, and we're fully prepared. Yes, we need to do more work on our listings. Yes, this is our first time. Not sure. No, it's not for us. Let's just see how we're getting on. Are you getting up to nearly 80% voted? Okay, let's call it a day. They were 79%, almost there. So let's call that day. And if you could just show us the results, please. It's me again. Okay, 17% of you are fully prepared. Congratulations, that's fantastic. The vast majority of you will be applying and need to do more work on your listings. Some of you are the first time. Congratulations. Hopefully, we've got some next stuff coming up that will give you some good pointers on things you need to do to create what we call a first-class buyable listing. 7% of you not sure. Feel free to get in touch if you need help make that decision. And 9 of you say no, it's not for us. So that's that's resounding thing that everybody here will be heading for G Club. That's fantastic. Great to see. If we can close that down, Danny, then we will move on. Okay, let's get rid of talking head Chris here for a second. So our top tips, all right, I say as buyers from the framework and helping the vast majority of the having bought from the vast majority of the most successful suppliers now, or helped a number of suppliers be very, very, very successful via G Cloud and other frameworks. We've got a fair bit of stuff we can share. All right, so there's 40 or thousand G Cloud listings on 14 G Cloud 14. Okay, and many of them aren't what we call buyable. All right, there's something fundamentally wrong about them. It means they will be overlooked. All right. And I think that kind of reflects in the fact that something like 1,500 out of the 5,000 suppliers that are on G Cloud have actually had a call off request from them. Now, a lot of people get on there and don't want it. They just want the badge. Yeah. To help their other markets and help with their marketing. Fair enough. I think CCS is taking a bit more of a dim view of that nowadays. But being listed doesn't really guarantee you inbound leads. It shouldn't be used for a source of inbound leads anyway. It should be used as a way to help your outbound sales efforts. You're talking to a prospect and they say, yes, we like your stuff. How do we buy from you? And you guide them towards your G Cloud listing. All right. But still, being buyable is about removing the blockers that stop buyers from choosing you. So, if you've got something fundamentally wrong with the way that your listing is structured, either in your keywords, you're not returning the search properly, or in your filters, or in your pricing, or in your service definition, or in your terms, then people, that's what makes you unbuyable. All right, and the likelihood of finding this out about whether you've got buyability issues is the first time you see a contractor will go into a potential competitor without you being contacted or having been involved in that, means that you're likely got a viability issue. Okay, and as I say, your listing's just the start of the journey, really, because I still get people that come to me and say, I've been on G Cloud for 8 years, I've never had an inbound lead, and you start to think, have you actually ever listened to what some of the more senior government people that are involved in this have always said, that don't rely on it for inbound leads? There's 5,000, 40 odd thousand services on there. What makes you unique? And quite a lot of people don't know that. And they blame the framework rather than actually blaming their sales processes or blaming how they put the listing together. All right. Rant over. All right, so here we've got actually is the UK's most successful SaaS supplier on G Cloud, a company called Firetext, who are a very long-standing client of ours. And they've got some best practice here, which you can see on here, about how they've structured their listing. Okay, so first of all, you can use a brand name, all right, but actually do call it what it does. Yeah, because if you think about, I'm searching for something, I'm not going to be searching for blue bananas. If that's what you've decided to call your product, I'm going to be searching for a secure NHS text gateway, an SMS gateway that I want. Yeah, or I'm going to be searching for a data analytics platform, something like that. All right. So think about what your buyer is going to be searching to find your solution. All right. So, and also try not to use marketing and sales gobbledygook. All right. It's one of the biggest things that turn people off is like, hey, we're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And you're like, I just want to know what you do. All right. But you need to include the keywords and detail about what service does. Okay, so we've given you a really, really, probably the greatest SaaS example you can probably have for an SME. All right. In terms then, so you've got your service name and service, 50 words that you've got for the service description, it's called. or service outline, I can't remember what they're calling it now. And then you have 10 features and 10 benefits of 10 words each. All right, don't have to use all 10 words. You know, it's entirely up to you, depending on how you're thinking people are going to be using it. This is searchable text that a buyer will come to, and it can help then sift out you from the rest of your competition. All right, so try to make them short and snappy. Again, no marketing talk. Use keywords and phrases. What are the main things your buyer wants from this solution? Think about how we're going to search for it. Try and buy your service. Have you ever done that? Yeah, this is what we do day in, day out for our clients. All right. Again, now you're coming down into the service definition document. A lot of people you see there will just give a marketing deck outlining some stuff. All right. Now, I need to, as a buyer, when I come to the thing, I need to be able to offline evaluate your service and compare it to somebody else. All right. And that's why we take a lot of time over the service definition. Doesn't need to have fancy writing. Okay, you don't need to hire fancy writers for this. This is just information on how your service works. In fact, the less fancy it is, the better. All right, so don't waste your time on writers here. You want to focus much more of your time on the search text and on your filters. All right. So you can use these headings to put together. This is what a heading should look like. All right, and it's just basically it's a technical brochure on how your service works. All right, you don't have to include secret sauce stuff in here. All right, you can allude to it, but it's really great to understand here. I can say I can really compare like for like when I've got 3 or 4 different similar services in front of me. All right. So, if something's missing, if it just tells me it's a copy of your listing on there, like, what your features and benefits are, or it just tells me what about your market position and how great you are, thanks very much, I'll be overlooked. All right. So again, trying to help you out as much as possible we can here. So as I say, there are several key parts of a strong G-Cloud listing. It's all about the service title, the service summary, the features and benefits, your service definition. What I haven't shown you here is that there's a bunch of filters. Certainly on lot 3, there's only 6. I think 6. No, so there's 9 on a SaaS one. There's lots. There's a lot of filters you can do. You can filter by types of software you're providing, ISOs, what your security levels are, the types of security you got, because a buyer will try and think, actually, what am I really looking for? I have to do this upfront stuff. And if you can then use that to your advantage, all right, and pricing, okay. I still see price on application or, oh, this is really complex, so you need to contact us. And you're like, well, actually, you're not in the right place for that. Okay, and CCS will find you and they will take you down. All right, so don't put price on application on there. Yeah. You need to say what your price. It doesn't have to be your best price, all right? Because there's an advantage for using G-Cloud for a quick procurement rather than following a procurement for 6 months to get the best price. Is the thing about actually getting on with things. But it's good to put a reasonably good, strong pricing there. But do not put price on application in. Okay, it's the biggest tip I can probably give you out of it all. So what does this all mean? Well, it does mean inputs needed from multiple teams if you have them: sales, marketing, operations, leadership, legal, etc. You're going to face some barriers that may take some time, like compliance, there's contracting issues, finding your effective keywords, understanding how the buying process works. We estimated a long time ago, actually, about G-Cloud 6 or 7, that creating a lot 2 listing can take up to 15 to 20 working days across the business to get it completely right. All right. By the way, with us, it will take about 5 or 6 working days of your team. We'll take away a lot of that. In previous editions, nearly 25% of suppliers have failed to make it to the finish line. So if you think about those 5,000 suppliers that are on there now, it would have been 6,000. So 1,000 people have not made it through and either having to work through different ways to market or leaving the market completely because they've left it too late. Yeah. As I say, many of those have failed to start their applications in the final 2 weeks. So just get on with it. Right. So what can you do now? All right. So if you're on the framework already, have a look at your current listing. Is it viable? Yeah. Do you know how the buying process works? Do you understand the new proposed lot structure? How are you going to fit? Are your sales and internal stakeholders, where are they going to be on holiday during that July to September period? Yeah. Where are your gaps? What do you need? Are you going to need to get support? What are your blockers? Do you have your carbon reduction plan? What about your terms and conditions? Do they need updating to go with the new regulations? Again, planning your application timeline, and as I say, All of this is subject to CCS confirming a market engagement, by the way, but you do definitely need to make sure that you start as soon as otherwise you're just planning to fail. All right. So, end of that particular piece. I think we're coming towards the end of it now. Daniel, I think this is going to be one of our final polls. If you wouldn't mind just launching this one, I'll let you know if it is. And then we get into Q&A. Oh, no, it's the second to last one, I promise you. So, have you won any business for G Cloud before? And I think we've done similar to this at the front, but it's good to get a bit more detail on this. So, please select one of the following. Yes, we do. Yes, occasionally. No. There's some opportunities to convert. No, we've never seen anything yet, and we're not on G Cloud yet. All of this is very sensitive data, obviously, and none of it goes in. We don't use any external stuff here at all. It's just literally to try and help us understand the sort of people we've got coming to these webinars and making sure we're getting the right level of focus in. And we can help. Nearly up to 80%, couple more seconds. Okay, I think we'll leave it at that. We're 78% now, so let's leave it at that, and we'll publish the answers there. Okay, 23% of you, congratulations, regularly win. So that's what 65% of you are actually winning business. So congratulations for that. For the others, good luck with it all. I'm sure there's some things that you could take from here, and if you need to, just get in touch and we can try and help you out a little bit if we can. But yeah, most of that. Thank you very much. We'll close that down. We'll just talk a little bit about some stuff about the services we offer, then we're going to Q&A. All right, so how can we help? All right, so we offer a number of things. I talked about these framework applications. We don't just do G Cloud, we do a whole range of framework applications. We're right in the middle of TS4 and DOS 7 just kicked off, tech transport at the moment. Plus we work outside of Crown Commercial as well. We obviously offer a guaranteed listing service, okay? But everything we do is based on how to make you buyable. Yeah, we use our buyer knowledge that's throughout the team and working with others to make sure that we get you viable. All right. We offer also workshop trainings, go-to-market assessments. We have a phone a friend, expert support, and a huge amount of stuff around bid services. Okay, so it's ever growing there, and we've had some spectacular successes recently. A small organisation won a Modge contract for multi-million-pound Modge contracts. Another company's just about to win a data contract with DWP. There's some big stuff we've helped people win and calling off from these. So there's a number there, but from a G Cloud perspective, we can guarantee your listing, we get your money back basically, and we'll make sure it's viable as well. All right. So we offer fully managed framework application support. We'll do a viability assessment on this, so some of them on your can do on some of your current ones that you've got. Definitely do competitor analysis for you and making sure that you're returning for your keywords you need to. Now, bear in mind that the structure of G Cloud 15 and the delivery mechanism is likely to change. So, we're going to have to maybe do some of that stuff once it's opened, and we'll try to work it out from there, because there's going to be different categories and different subcategories for the type of service and offer. All right, but I think we're probably best placed, and we're really well known for what we do here in terms of framing your service to meet your buying requirements. Have you actually tried to buy your listing? I think that's it as well. And as I say, we guarantee to get you listed or get your money back. No one else does that. We'll take the risk. We're going to do our services in 2 waves. Okay, so at the moment, wave 1 is going to be for 20. If you want to get things done, we're going to do it to July to September, and the second wave will be mid-August to towards the end of September. Okay, these are probably going to change. We want to know once we know the actual timelines from CCS. But it allows people then to say, actually, we're going to go on to the first or the second. We use these for review purposes, but we'll all get onboarded beforehand and let you know what you need to do, okay? We are onboarding from next week. We've got limited slots available. It's not a thing, but we've increased our capacity from last time around. But I think 7% of that capacity is going to be taken by returning customers anyway. So we increased our capacity by 20%. So, if you're new to it or you're not an existing customer and you're like, well, say you want to find out more, just give us a shout, okay, and we'll see what we can do to help you. We'd be delighted to help you. Do close some clients, so lovely stuff from Stella at Anatech and Jamie from Soprano Design talking about the stuff we did around the G Cloud listings. I'm read it out. It's all lovely stuff they've written there for us. If you need to book some time there, so you can scan this, or you can get in touch with us from advicecloud.co.uk. There will be a link to booking some time with me or with one of my team, so David or Ella or one of the team that can be on hand to talk to you about the stuff, what you do and what you need. All right. So don't hang about though. All right. So this is the final poll, and then I promise you we're getting on to Q&A. We've got plenty of time for that. So we are, got 20 minutes yet. So I'm sure there's a few questions. Danny. Okay. How did you find the webinar? Select, please, someone very useful, useful, or not useful at all. Okay, we're nearly up to 80%. Okay, let's launch that then now, Danny, please. 99% of you very useful or very useful. Thank you very much. I'm glad for that. That's really good news. Sorry about the 1% not useful. You're either a competitor or the person that always says that. Or if there is something, seriously though, if there's something you didn't like about it and we need to improve, let us know. Okay, please get in touch. But I think 99% is not a bad one to get. So thank you very much for that. Let's head into Q&A. Danny, are you there?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, we've got a lot of questions in already. As Chris said, do send them into the questions box. Any that we don't answer today, we will write up and send with the recording later. Someone asks, we were talking about G-Cloud 14 and how it was using the Meet, awarding via Meet. Were we expecting G-Cloud 15 to follow the Procurement Act and go with MAT instead?
Yes. Very quick answer. Yeah, under the regulations, their Meet doesn't exist anymore. Under the new regulations, you've got to remember that there will be an element of contracts that will be dual running. So there'll be frameworks that will, until they actually expire, so G-Cloud 14 will run until the end of March next year, they will be using the old way of working. And they slowly will transition over to the new regulations as and when each framework goes live. I think Transport Tech is due to be the first one of the CCS frameworks to go live, followed by either DOS or TS4.
Cool. There's a couple of questions about CRPs and carbon reduction plans. Someone asks, do we think they'll be needed for Lot 2? And also, when do CRPs need to be ready at application or go live?
I think it's usually around award time. I would always aim, it's good practice to have a carbon reduction plan. If you don't have one, by the way, we've got a partner we can refer. We don't do those themselves, but we've got an excellent partner that we can refer you to. I think a lot of these, so even for small organizations, it may be that it's not necessary to get them to get onto the framework, okay? But then you've got to think about how you're actually going to go and win work. All right. Part of virtually all authorities now will ask you for some form of carbon reduction plan for their own carbon reporting. They have to manage their own scope 3 supply chain people. So even if it says, oh, you don't need to do that, to go and win the work, you probably will still need to have one. Okay, we've got one, and we're only a 12-person organization, plus our associates, so not just under 20 people here. It's just good practice to have it, to be honest, but usually they will ask for something like that at award, unless they're going to be evaluating it, then you'll need it by submission. That will come out in the Crown Commercial Services thing.
There's a few questions coming in about FVRAs.
Yeah.
Someone says, they had a bit of trouble with G-Cloud 14 and their one, and they are an SME. Do we have any recommendations about how to complete their FVRAs for G-Cloud 15, or what we expect that, and some kind of tips on that?
Well, I think you'll see what the requirements will be for that one when you go to the market engagement for Crown Commercial. We can also help you with that. You can get in touch with us and ask for some help. Depending on the level of help you'll need, or depending on how much we have to charge you for that, because there's clearly quite a lot of knowledge and it can be quite time consuming. And depending on what you failed on, really, there's multiple different things that you might have failed on. and sometimes they can be quite easy to remedy. Other times it can be an actual, sorry, no, you're scuppered on this one. All right. Sorry to be a bit vague, but it's just, that's it's a tricky one, FVRA, the FS stuff.
Nice. Okay. So someone else, there's a few coming in again. There's quite some similar questions, so I'm trying to group them together rather than keep them going through. Someone asks, basically, this was probably to do with open frameworks where there's going to be windows of applications over time. Someone asks, can we adjust our pricing midway through the contract, or will these windows be the opportunity to edit our listings and pricing?
Okay, so the golden rule of G-Cloud pricing is that you can always adjust your pricing in a downward direction. Okay, but your pricing will need to be fixed for the duration of that version of the framework. All right. Now, if you wish to update your pricing in an upward direction, that can only be done at the refresh point. All right. So when the framework reopens for reselection and new submission, bear in mind that looking at a 5 or 6 year framework, that you'll likely then, the application's done a year beforehand before it goes live, or 9 months before it. You could well be sitting there thinking about might have to fix your prices for quite some time. All right. So now there is a mechanism after your first call off contract comes to renewal, providing you put that is in your initial proposal or to your buyer around the contract and the call off contract. There is a method to put indexation in that, an indexation clause. Most buyers will push very, very hard against that though. All right. So you need to take that into consideration. Right. So the short answer is you can adjust your pricing in a downward direction at any time you like. Okay, no problem at all. Buyers are very happy to do that. Nation is happy for your competitiveness. But also then if you want to put it up, then it's the next iteration. Yeah, there you
go. So someone else also asks, if with G-Cloud 15, when that appears, does that mean G-Cloud 14 will no longer be a viable option for curing through?
After March 2026, yeah. As soon as G-Cloud 15 goes live, there will be occasionally there is a small window to complete procurements for complete in-flight procurements. But that is very small, and I think a couple of times they've actually ceased to exist. Assume that after March, whatever it is, in 2026, G-Cloud 14 will no longer exist to be used.
Okay, next one, plenty of time, and there's a lot of questions. So for G-Cloud 15, do we know yet what certifications will be mandatory, e.g. Cyber Essentials, ISOs, anything like that?
I think it's still going to be sticking to Cyber Essentials. I'm afraid I don't know around the ISOs. It might be something, I think, for the for like things like secure cloud and things like that. I mean, expect to have a little bit more stringent requirements. But no, I think this is one for Crown Commercial, for the market engagement.
Okay. And someone else also asks around the lot structures that we anticipate. Could you elaborate on what is meant by hyperscalers and possibly larger resellers in terms of lot one?
So hyperscaler is someone like Oracle, AWS, Microsoft Azure, quite large or medium. Yeah, you can get things like Civo as well, some of the more new entrants into the marketplace, IO Mart, people like that who will build out, scalable on-demand compute and storage requirements. All right, and then there are people that resell that as well. some of the Microsoft resellers or the AWS partners, things like that, IBM. There's quite a number of hyperscalers out there now. I mean, the two major ones, obviously, the three major ones that people know about: AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud, GCP.
Nice. And there's two questions that have come in about moving from G-Cloud 14 to G-Cloud 15. Someone asks, can we just transfer our 14 listing to 15, but also then what areas should we be looking at to reassess on our listings before resubmitting?
Based on most of it, I would say probably not a lot can be taken over. They might keep the service definition of pricing, but it sounds like because there's going to be new categories. So if you think of it as a SaaS listing, there's going to be new taxonomy. That's the word I'm looking for. There's going to be a new taxonomy in there because that taxonomy they've got there is like quite old now. It's back to digital marketplace. So there's going to be new ways of identifying the types of software and what categories you would fit into. So I wouldn't rely on much of it being to be able to take over, to be honest. And it's certainly, as far as I know, is not going to be one of those ones where you click and carry over.
Okay. Just have a look through here. Okay, cool, this is a good one. Do we have any idea of how competition will be used with G-Cloud 15, as we're being told that it's going to be a bit more competitive? Would it mean that buyers can do further competitions on the framework as opposed to direct award only? And do we know what that will look like?
I mean, I don't have the crystal ball to say what it looked like, but under the Procurement Act regulations, you can do a multiple number of different stages. Yep. So, I could do. It could include, me doing a request for information, followed by then a request for pricing, followed by maybe a pitch or a demo or a test. All these different stages that can be included as part of a call-off process or a competition process under the new Procurement Act are under consideration until we actually see what Crown Commercial are going to say about it. But what they've said previously in market engagements is that they will be bringing the full relevant weight of and the facilities, that you have under TPA 2023 to bear for G-Cloud. So expect there's that ability. I think that's when I'm saying that they're closing Cloud Compute and the closing Lot 4 means that all of that stuff will shift up into the only problem then, of course, is what's the bloody platform they're going to use for it. I don't think any of us that are in this world and have been around appreciate the current platforms that they use for further competition, apart from maybe the old digital marketplace Lot 1 stuff where it's sat on there, where it's fairly straightforward to use. Everything else is just a pile of unusable junk, to be honest. Makes life very difficult. So we'll see what happens from that.
Okay. Some people are asking when the pre-market engagement session is. I think that was June 17th, wasn't it, Chris?
Correct, yeah. I think there might be one or two of them, but the one that we know about is the 17th of June. Go on to Tech UK's website and the bookings on there.
We're quite low on questions now. That some we haven't answered, but they're a bit more technical, so we'll write up the answers to those to send rather than ask.
Well, I think I'm happy to wrap up. Unless there's one more.
Yep. As I said, they're a bit more technical, so we'll write those answers up for you. So you will get them answered and we'll send them around. But yeah, I'd say let's wrap that up there.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Danny, for doing that as well. We're on to Q&A, and thank you everybody for a really engaged session and for your feedback as well. If you've got any feedback to us as well, please do let us know. If there's anything you want to see from us, hear from us, You've got any questions around this, get in touch or book some time in one of mine or my team's diary. Other than that, I wish you the very best. You've got 5 minutes back of your day. And I wish you the very best for the rest of the day and for the G Cloud process ahead. Look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks ever so much.